Hi, Kara. Thank you so much for joining me this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. I'm super excited to do the podcast with you and learn more about yourself. And also, we're gonna discuss more about in harness our inner guru. So that will be like our topic today, and we have a like conversation on that. So before we get into the topic and discussion, I'd love to know more about yourself. How did you become an entrepreneur yourself? Is that you always wanted to do with your life, or like accidentally happened and become who you are today?
Well, I definitely have always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've never done a very good job of working for other people. In fact, I always tell this story of when I was 5 or 6 years old. I actually made like $6 in quarters selling my older siblings used Valentines on Valentine's Day. And so I've always had that mind, but I never really anticipated that I would be in the mentoring or the healing space at all.
Mm,
That is not something that I at all anticipated. So yeah.
that's great. And how long you been in the journey? Like how long you been healing others or like doing the coaching thing?
So I've been coaching for about actively for about 10 years. And I've been on my own journey for, gosh, 25 years or more. And I actually originally went to college to be a professional opera singer,
Right.
and which is kind of a very different space, I guess. There's still sort of that healing that happens through music and everything, but as you is if anyone knows anything about classical singing, it's a whole body thing. You don't
Yeah.
use microphones, and so when your physical body isn't functioning very well, your voice doesn't function very well.
Hmm.
And so I found myself really struggling with chronic mystery illness. And I call it mystery illness because the doctors couldn't really figure me out. And I
Right.
spent a lot of years searching and trying to figure out what was wrong.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of them looked at me and said, well, we can't figure out, so it must all be in your head.
Mm,
And it wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear, but it propelled me into looking outside of the box of Western medicine. And there's actually a huge breaking point where I was pregnant with my third son, and I was like 8 months pregnant. So really pregnant, but I was also dealing with these chronic symptoms on top of that, and I didn't know how to fix it. And so I had this moment where I just kind of had a breakdown.
yeah.
And I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, and I was just done, and I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. And the next thing I know, I fall asleep, and I don't remember how I fell asleep or when I fell asleep. All I remember is when I woke up, I looked at the clock and I realized it had been hours since I had been
Mm,
awake. And my other two children, who were under the age of 6, had been totally unsupervised, unattended to for a long time. And so I
wow.
panic, as you can
Yeah.
imagine, like it was terrifying. And I go to call out for them, but then I couldn't talk at all. Like my voice was gone. And I tried to physically move, and I couldn't get up. Like I couldn't move, like I was paralyzed. And I didn't know then, I know now that that was the first of many mini strokes because of
Mm,
an underlying heart condition that I eventually was able to identify and resolve. But
yeah.
here I am laying there trapped in my body, not knowing if my children are okay. It was the worst. It was the worst thing ever. And so
How
that
long that problem lasted? Like being paralyzed and not able to talk, is it for long term or like a few minutes?
it was probably a good half hour that I was laying there.
Right.
And it was excruciating. I mean, I had dealt with a lot of pain up until then,
Yeah.
and that was probably the worst pain. And so I was able to walk and talk eventually, and I found them, and they were down in the basement watching cartoons, and everything was fine. But I couldn't get out of my mind and my heart what could have possibly happened in that
Right.
time frame. And it's like, I can't let this happen again. So that was like that turning point that kind of lit a primal mother bear fight in me to say, okay, I've got to figure this out. So that kind of was the what's the word, propelled me forward, right? To
Right.
look outside of the box of what I was already doing, because what I was doing wasn't working. And so
Yeah.
that got me into energy medicine, holistic medicine, mindfulness, and, personal development, and all of these things that were kind of outside of that box of traditional therapies, traditional treatments and medications and things like that. And eventually I found myself really connecting to my gifts, my natural talents that I didn't really know were there, and sort of this calling that I probably wouldn't have found had I not had my own sort of mess, my own journey of trying to figure myself out. So that's what has me here today, just feeling that
Yeah.
desire to help people like me, who just felt really stuck and didn't know what to do, how to kind of use the mess to leverage the mess to make something beautiful out of their life, but also to get the information that maybe they're missing,
Yeah.
that's keeping them stuck.
Yeah, that's great. And that you've been to doctors and they diagnosed and everything, they couldn't actually figure out what actually happened to you, right? And
Well,
then
they
spend entire
tried.
license to, right. Yeah.
Yeah, they tried. There were several different diagnoses. Like, I would go to this doctor and he would say, well, it's probably mental illness. And then this doctor would say it's fibromyalgia. And then this other doctor said it was Hashimoto's. So there was definitely some clear evidence that something was going on, because I had some viral infections like Epstein-Barr virus. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's actually known to cause a lot of autoimmune disease. And then there was always something going on with my heart, but they couldn't
Right.
quite pinpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about like you've been through a lot and then you've experienced it like that could be like a mental health illness or like it could be kind of disease and you don't know yourself. And right now, like what topic we're going to talk about, which is like harness your own inner guru. So what does it actually mean? Like why did you choose that topic? And let's have a chat on that.
Yeah, no, I love that question, because it may not seem like it relates, but the reason why I've become so passionate about this topic and why I've created this program is because, of all those years of searching for the answers, the only thing that really got me lasting results
Mhm.
was learning how to listen to
Right.
my own inner voice of wisdom and truth. And up until, for a long time, when I was just spinning my wheels, it was because I was just putting all my trust in Western medicine. I was putting the doctor was God, and you just do whatever they said without any questions, without really even looking at what the side effects for the medicine was, or you just did what they told you to. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how we were conditioned to be. And I'm not saying Western medicine doesn't have its place. It has healed broken bones. It's helped bring my babies into the world safely. It was finally able to I was able to get a heart procedure done that was really life-changing and helpful. But usually they're geared towards treating symptoms rather than getting to the root.
Yeah.
And so part of my journey was, okay, what's at the root of this? And I discovered childhood trauma that I had blocked out. So there was some major trauma that was affecting my brain and was affecting my body. I learned to understand the connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit, that it's all an encompassing thing, that you can't just address
Yeah.
the body. You can't, and so, yeah, so there was just, a lot that I learned, but the number one thing that I think really made all the difference was really cultivating that skill to listen to my body, because the body speaks to you. There's a language of the body, learning that language, learning how your inner guru speaks. And I'm a very spiritual person. I don't expect everyone to be, but I do believe in a divine power. And I believe that we have the divine in us, and that if we're really connected to that divine source, that, all the answers are there. They're
Yeah.
all there. And when I started to listen and really learn to trust what that looked like, I was led to the answers. I was able to, the ball really started rolling in the direction of wholeness and healing.
Yeah, that's Great to look at it. Like, so what do you actually do in terms of like healing the inner guru? Like, what's your method in order to like someone is going through, let's say, mental health illness or like illnesses himself? Like, I'm diagnosed with IBD, so inflammatory bowel disease. So breathe through my bowel. So that's a diagnosis with us 4 or 5 months now on a heavy medication. And they inject me every other week. So, and that's really costly. One injection is $700 or something like that. So
Wow.
yeah, and there is like some days is like your hormones goes everywhere because I'm on steroid medication and that plays around with you. So if someone like me like come to you and looking for the help, what would you be doing and what you used to do for yourself in order to get the uh, cure from the disease or like any kind of symptoms?
Yeah. Well, obviously not everybody is dealing with the exact same thing.
Yeah,
And so what I do would never be, okay, I'm going to fix this particular disease. Or cure what you're dealing with, because that's not, everyone is so different and
mm,
unique. And while I have a lot of knowledge and experience with the clients that I've worked with and what I've dealt with, I have no experience with what you're dealing with. But what I do have the experience with is that understanding that, again, we're not just physical beings. And
yeah,
so I would want to invite you to open your mind and your heart to the possibility, okay, what emotions or thought patterns or programming are connected to the
mm,
gut? And so anyone that's aware of the chakras and things like that, there's different energy systems of the body. There's the meridians and there's the chakras and there's the different centers of the body that actually are connected to different parts of our psyche and our emotional and spiritual selves.
yeah,
And so the digestion is all connected to your personal power center, the solar plexus. And I would probably want to explore with you a little bit about, okay, where do you feel like you've disconnected to your personal power? Or it's also this emotional storage center. So what emotions of anxiety, or, even way back to when you were born, right? When you were
yeah,
little, what are some patterns of thinking or emotions that are repetitively being reinforced and being stored in that part of your body, which then eventually causes a physical dis-ease? So that would be one area that I would address.
mm,
But for those who are new to all of this, I spend time in my method teaching how the brain works, how the mind, how the how thoughts, how the unconscious versus the conscious mind, and how thoughts are affecting our physical body. I
yeah,
teach how the spirit works. How does the spirit really function? I teach how the body works. What are the basic needs of the body? And this is for people who just have been totally used to just trusting everything the medical professionals told them, and they haven't really delved into that. And this is not meant to be an insult, because I was there. That was totally me, where I hadn't quite learned how to really think for myself, how to
right,
really listen.
yeah,
And so we kind of start really in the foundation of really learning, how do all of these pieces work? And then how do they work together? And then we get into some practical tools of, okay, what does it actually look like to hear, to listen, to
mm,
actively listen to the body? And there's information that you need to know about, like I mentioned before, the language of the body, what emotions, what are the different connections spiritually and emotionally and mentally are being made in the body. And so when you start feeling something physical in the body, it's usually a sign that something has been there on an energetic level. What I mean is, like, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, has been sitting there and kind of stuck for a long time.
yeah,
And so we kind of delve into those practical tools of application of what does that really look like, and making it more tangible, because a lot of people say, well, how do I really listen? How can I really
mm,
trust? How do I know that what I'm hearing is actually, real and true,
right.
because it feels really abstract. So I bring it into a more tangible, practical application.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, Kara, if anyone interested to learn more about you and your program, where's the best place to find you?
Well, you can just go to your www.yourinnerguru.com, and I've got a free training on there that's for anyone. And you know, those who I tend to attract are dealing with chronic issues, whether they know what it is or maybe they're not
Yeah.
sure what it is and they've been living with it for a long time, but really learning to harness your inner guru, you know, since what we've been through the last couple of years with COVID. And I mean, gosh, it's really forcing us to reevaluate how we function and how we
Yeah.
see the world and how we show up for ourselves, because the world just kind of is a crazy place sometimes, you know. And so it's really for anyone that wants to take the reins and, you know, of their own life and their own healing journey, and really step into their power of like, okay, I want to create a better life for myself. What does that really look like? And it really does start with listening. So
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we are coming to the end of this podcast. So Kara, it's been a great pleasure having you on the show, and it's been a great, like, thank you so much for coming. I wish you best of luck with your health, life, personal, and career as well.
thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you. So that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I hope you got some value from it and enjoyed our episode. So those who are interested in learning more about Kara, go visit our website, or if you want to reach out to and work with her, and yeah, you can find her all in our website as well. So until then, I'll talk to you in the next website. Take care. Bye.